and welcome to this issue of this episode of Point Counterpoint. As always, each week we come forward to deliberate and discuss one of the burning issues plaguing Goa. Of course, we sometimes run out of time, but we never run out of issues. And we are once again here to discuss an ongoing pandemic that Goa seems to be facing, and that is an assault on our land and our environment in very different ways, which is further kind of degrading our society, our polity, and our way of life. Now, this on paper, the subject that we have may seem to be not huge or headline grabbing, but if we actually look at it and study it, one understands that it is yet another attempt to erode the process of checks and balances which are already in place to ensure that there is no rampant conversion of land for uses other than what it was envisaged. Now, the subject at hand, I'll just elaborate that on November 3rd, there were amendments proposed to the Goa Land Revenue Rules 1969, which has created a furor amongst crusaders for Goa. And what really is that proposed amendment? The proposed amendment is that within 20 days, if an OK is not given for converting an agricultural land for non-agricultural purposes by the TCP and other allied bodies, and forest also comes into play, then the ball comes directly into the collector's court, who then is empowered to issue these kind of conversion go-aheads. Now, the problem here is that earlier on there were stringent checks and balances to see that whether it was right, all the rules and regulations were followed, whether the forest checks that were needed to check the canopy density of trees and so on and so forth would all be in place before an OK would be given. In this particular case, all activists and others fear that because of the 20-day period and with the matter coming to the collector would in turn be quote-unquote empowered to give these go-aheads without doing the necessary checks and balances that are there, which would basically open this whole Pandora's box of large-scale conversion from agriculture to non-agriculture. And when something like this happens, then the elephant in the room is always the builder lobby and others who will use these kind of loopholes to carry on what they do. At the same time, it could also mean that somebody who's a local would also like to convert his land for his own purposes. Conversion itself is not a crime, but when you convert in a haphazard manner, without the checks and balances that are needed, then our environment, our land use, everything else goes for a toss, and the basic safeguards that we have to protect the land, those safeguards are gradually crumbling. And which is why we need to kind of deliberate and discuss this, especially when the last date for filing objections is just round the corner, perhaps just barely 24 hours after this discussion happens. I have with me a very, very eminent panel, and they also constitute people who have actually taken up cudgels against this move. On the right is Abhijit Prabhudesai. He's the convener of Goan Kolsonaka, but at the same time he also runs his organization called Rainbow Warriors, which has been in the forefront of this movement. Next to him is Swapnesh Shellekar. He's the convener of the Goa Swabhiman Party, again one of the early movers as far as this case is concerned, who has gone ahead and filed objections. On my left is eminent advocate, lawyer, columnist Radharao Gracias. Thank you and welcome. And on the left is again activist, writer, columnist Sauter D'Souza, who of course is very much involved and is an expert in many of these issues. I'll start with Sauter. We'll do a left to right thing this time. Sauter, if you can just quickly respond or pontificate on some of the points I've raised or anything else.
Yeah. First and foremost, I think every time we talk about conversion, this is a topic of land conversion, not religious conversion.
Right.
Religious conversion has become more difficult, probably because the whole talk of the poor getting benefits.
Yes.
You see, so the rich are so-called threatened by the poor getting benefits because of religious conversions. But in the case of land conversions, it's just the opposite. The poor are the losers and the rich are the gainers. Okay, and therefore you see all this, what do you call that, liberalization that is taking place. I also am a Gaonkar, and I basically come from a village, so the Sukuru village. And when you say a village panchayat, means it's a rural economy. Okay, and therefore I think all these conversion laws I have seen are very dangerous in the sense that they don't consider whether the economy is rural or the economy is urban. You know, so everyone is treated in a blanket way, and that is how we see the destruction of the villages that are taking place. Purvari is a very classic example. Every day we see, you know, patches of forest being cut down, and we can do nothing, you know, because they flash the conversion sanad. And I think there is some sort of rationalization. Although we need housing, we need industrialization, there needs to be some sort of rationalization, because more so with climate change, okay, we cannot just replace trees by concrete. Okay, so flyovers on one side, these tar roads, then these concrete structures, okay, and no trees. You see, and this is the fallout on one hand, the government is saying do agriculture.
Right.
Okay, I have discussed this during the regional plan that time with Mr. Edgar Ribeiro and all. That they are saying we reserve the agriculture land, we have not tampered with it.
Right.
But the question is, when you build on the edge of the field,
right,
okay, you're blocking the sunlight, you're blocking the wind, okay, you're putting in sewage water into the fields,
right,
and that place afterwards is no more profitable for the farmer. So automatically the farmer sells it. You see, so all sides you corner it with constructions, okay, which have come under
the farmer has no option.
So the land conversion basically is to benefit the rich, okay, and to penalize the poor.
Right.
So the ultimate fallout of climate change is on the poor, not on these rich people.
Okay.
And they will destroy Goa, and then they have already bought other places, so they will go to destroy there.
Correct. Okay, we'll come back to that. Brother, do you see red in what's happening? Why do you see red?
Yeah, see what happens to Sujoy. I will first go into this proposed amendment, and maybe in the course of the discussion, I will suggest ways of out of it.
Right.
Now, what happens is, see, under our present procedures, you move for land conversion before the collector or the deputy collector. Then the deputy collector sends the file to the various departments, that is the land survey, the forest department, some other department, whatever, Mamlatdar,
yes. Forest
revenue,
also.
forest, yes.
Yes.
Now, what the amendment seeks to do is, if any of these authorities fail to give their report, that means the forest department could report that this is forest land, therefore do not grant conversion.
Right.
Then the revenue department may say this is Khazan land, do not grant conversion.
Right.
Now, what this amendment seeks to do is, if the report does not come, it means the collector may grant the conversion without reference to the actual state of affairs.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, what is wrong with this is, you see, actually there may not be much wrong with it, because it gives the applicant the right to get his response within a particular time. But what has to be done there is, you see, you are leaving the officer free just to avoid his duty. And what is normally happening is, suppose tomorrow I apply for conversion of land which is forest. I connive with the range forest officer or whoever is concerned, bribe him and tell him you keep silent for 20 days.
Right.
Now he has done nothing, he will say I have not reported that it is not forest. I get my conversion. So this is an easy way of making money for everybody. And it is also quite likely, if I am a stooge of a minister, the minister may phone up and tell the RFO, don't do anything for 20 days, this side I get my conversion. Now this should not be the case. What I suggest is, along with this amendment, there must be a clause, penal clause, which says that if an officer fails to report within 20 days, certain punishment is provided. First offense, second offense, third offense, fourth offense, fifth offense, out of the job. If this is done, this is a very good amendment. But if you just leave it like that, it means the officer is free to avoid responsibility, to make under the table money and get land which is not meant to be converted, and avoid responsibility. So let them add another amendment, wherein every officer upon whom a duty is there, he is forced to undergo some punishment in case of failure to report.
Correct.
I think that is what I would expect.
Yes, sir. Swapnesh, it all boils down to intent. do you think what Advocate Radharao is saying will ever be, could you expect the government to put in that clause so that the intent becomes absolutely clear?
Now, if we look at the intent, now who will be the beneficiary of this? No doubt, public in general. But we have all these politicians largely into this BJP cadre. They are largely into real estate business. Ideally, if I look at it, it is conflict of interest because they themselves are into real estate business, and convergence is the basics of getting a land converted from agricultural to non-agriculture purposes. Now, no one has spoken about what caused for this amendment. What triggered this amendment?
Yeah, that's important. Yes, please.
No one has come out in public as
Right,
of now.
right.
What was the need for this amendment?
What is
or
your feeling? As in what
My
is-
feeling is, see, these politicians of BJP are there into real estate. They are conniving with this builder real estate lobby. They want to expedite this process of converting the agricultural land to non-agriculture purposes. Now, this poor fellow collector, out of these 4 departments, TCP and Forest, they are having their own department heads. Mamledar and Land Surveys, they are from Revenue Department, and collector of a district, north or south. For all practical purposes, he is the head of department. If collector is not able to get the report from its subordinates, for what all administrative purposes he is sitting as a collector then?
Right.
As a system, this is not going to strengthen the system. As of now, the system is already weakened, and this amendment is going to further weaken the system.
Okay. Abhijit, if you can just elaborate a little bit on the specific objections, because people who may not have read, may not know, if you can just, for the benefit of the viewers, just outline the fundamental flaws in this amendment according to you.
Okay. See, the flaws, I will start with the legal flaws. Legally, I believe that these rules, delegated legislation, does not stand the challenge. And the reasons are many. First of all, the departments who have been included are, like he said, just TCP department and the Forest department effectively. The survey and the Mamledar reports have always been nil. We have seen thousands of matters, so they don't do anything about it. So only 2 departments have been consulted. Now, at the present juncture, there are number of laws which say that lands cannot be used for other purposes. For example, you have the wetland rules. The Goa State Wetland Authority has identified many wetlands. If this process is adopted, conversions will take place in violation of that law. Now, when any legislation is being done, the legislator is assumed to know the law. But this is completely in ignorance of the law. So you have the Command Area Development Act. Okay, the Command Area Development Act requires no land which is irrigated to be converted, but that data is not available. So you're going to get irrigated lands converted in violation of an existing law.
Okay.
You have the national water policies that no recharge areas can be touched, which are most important for a water,
And that has not been taken into account.
It has not been taken into account. You have Biodiversity Board, which has been given a number of tasks. One recent task, and Sauter talked about it, climate change. The Biodiversity Board says that 15% of Goa's land is going to be affected, going to be under continuous flooding and under massive storms. Now, Biodiversity Board must be consulted, and there are other departments, but I would like to talk about the Panchayat. See, Sauter has brought about this. The fact remains that land rights have not been granted in India, have not been recognized. The commons of Goa have not been understood or recognized. As a result, the conversion process usually is targeting the lands of poor tribals, poor farmers, poor fishermen who don't have land rights and therefore are getting continuously displaced across the state. So the Panchayat has to be considered, and the Panchayat is responsible to take care of a number of other things like easementary rights, and and it's the constitutional body at the local level which has to be respected. So this process is ignoring all of this. Now there are some more legal things I'd like to touch about. One is a Supreme Court order, which is there from 4th February 2015, which says that no land, and it's specific to conversion, and it says that we direct the respondents here, which is state Goa government, will not issue any NOC for conversion of any plot that has natural vegetation with tree canopy density in excess of 0.1 only, which is almost
is a judgment
open,
or
which is almost all the lines of this is an order which is in force.
Right.
And we have put in all kinds of RTS to all the departments, everybody is ignoring it. But when you're doing a legislation, you have to bring this into, you have to honor the Supreme Court, you have to comply with the Supreme Court orders. Okay, then forests are not identified till date. The Goa government has said in its affidavit in Supreme Court, 200 square kilometers of private forests exist in Goa. Only 40-45 square kilometers are identified. The forest department has to go to every place and identify the forest.
Right.
But for me, fundamentally, the most important thing is the precautionary principle. Conversion of land is an environmental issue because you're changing from agricultural land into so it's obviously an environmental issue. Environmental jurisprudence kicks in. Precautionary principle says that unless you know, you don't change the status. And this is India's law. It is our jurisprudence. So, not just this, and finally I would like to just touch upon the history. The history of Goa is not about the governments and the chief ministers. The history of Goa is about the struggle for the land, stopping this land conversion from mid to 2000, from the regional plan 2006, Goa Bachao Abhiyan days. The entire struggle has been to say that we don't want land conversion. Shet asate shet, Bhat asate bhat, Ran asate ran, and Gaon asato gaon. This is what the entire population of Goa and the land are calling for.
If I may,
please.
I think also Abhijit has spoken about it, but see, this amendment totally ignores a constitutional body, that is the village panchayats and the municipalities. Okay.
Yeah, it bypasses them completely.
Yes. And these are the village panchayats and municipalities are supposed to run all these schemes of Atmanirbhar and Swayambhurna and everything.
Right.
And finally, we are only Atmanirbhar in garbage now, Swayambhurna in garbage, and dengue and malaria. And the result is this indiscriminate conversion. Okay, because we have destroyed the flora and fauna with the wildlife that is there, So all the species are endangered, and the fallout is now what we see in the towns are already being destroyed.
Correct.
And now this conversion is only going to destroy the villages because already most of the towns are overpopulated, and many of the people want to escape into the villages, but again there is no place there.
So could you also elaborate on the last point?
And now this very land revenue code, okay, is a colonial law, okay, and when it was applied to Goa after liberation, okay, and as Abhijit said, here the lands, most of the lands rights are with the Komnidats. Okay, the panchayats, as in other states, the Gram Sabhas have this community ownership of the land. In Goa, the Komnidats were never accommodated in this whole thing. Even now, okay, the Komnidats are not consulted as to what will be the repercussions of conversions and all. They should have also been saying, because this also has a bearing on Komnidat land around, and Komnidat is not only looking at land for housing. It is also looking after all the natural resources.
So, could you also elaborate a little bit on what Abhijit's last point, on the fact that Goa has had a history of this struggle against conversions? Could you just touch upon the fact that this is not a new phenomenon?
Yeah.
I mean, successive governments over a period of time have committed acts which lead to the conversion of land, which is...
And the biggest culprit is this TCP Act being used, okay, to justify conversions under the land revenue code.
Right.
Okay, we all know how these regional plans and ODPs are made. The color, you just put orange, and then that is interpreted as okay. But within that orange color, there could be certain small patches of forest and small lakes and water bodies. Okay, of course you cannot pinpoint on an RP every small thing. Now, because of that, you have to do a conversion check. So once that is there, then you bury it with sand or mud, and then you build on that. So that's how even our water bodies have disappeared,
Right.
because RPA has just
Right.
classified that whole thing as settlement zone or commercial zone, and it is gone.
Radha, can you elaborate on one thing? See, the thing is, why would a democratically elected government carry out acts which are actually affecting and is detrimental to a majority of the population? Because when you're doing this kind of land conversion, your rural population, your rural bodies, institutions, everybody gets affected. So I'm saying that even politically, I mean, if you use your political hat, how does this actually even work politically for any dispute?
No, it works exactly to the benefit. You see what happens now, this particular land conversion business, real estate lobbies, these have been encouraged by the Congress earlier. The mess was created by the Congress. The BJP came to power accusing the Congress of this mess and offering solutions. But what we now see is they are adding to it. There's no solution.
Right.
They are capitalizing on the same mess, and their real estate lobby is making even more money. Now, if you see, Goa has become a highly desirable place to live. People who have made a lot of money into dubious means outside Goa come here. I understand that in a village like Asagaon today, 4-bedroom bungalows are sold for something like 8 crores.
Right.
Now,
Right.
is there any Goan who can buy a bungalow for 8 crores?
Correct.
The government doesn't bring any legislation to moderate prices or to control prices. Nothing of the sort is being done. See, the whole issue is who makes the maximum money. And in Goa, the only thing left, mining is no longer there. Only thing that is left is the land. And as you say, they are destroying the land, they are destroying the villages. That is absolutely right. I live in a village. And for this, the responsibility is with the voters. I am someone of people here, I am one who has contested the election.
Right.
And I know what it means.
Right.
See, our voter is downright dishonest. I am willing to keep it on record.
Right.
And so, if the government tomorrow sells land, if the government, these politicians make money, they are willing to give that money into the voters, and the voters willingly support you. That is why this is happening. This would never happen if the voters were to vote honestly. And as long as our voter is dishonest, you don't expect Goa to improve. You do not think anything will be protected here. Because all those who make money through dubious means
Right.
are candidates at elections. You see, I know every constituency now, at least in the south, every character who contested has made money through dubious means.
Right.
We can see it. And the people are clamoring after them because they are getting a piece
Doles
of the
and
pie.
money, yeah.
So therefore, when the voter is as dishonest, why will the politician be honest? This is what's happening.
I
You
endorse
have to address the problem at the voters level.
Right.
A movement has to start where the voter has to be educated and the voter has to be committed to vote on merit.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah. quickly,
Sujay,
I'll-
1 minute.
I'll come
I'll
back.
just add to his thing. See, this is the contradiction I see. Voters are electing people who are in real estate and mining.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and this real estate and mining, basically this money is circulating in politics.
So the
Okay.
political class is lending itself to these kind of
So the
amendments.
voter is lending himself by electing
Right.
people who are in real estate, whether it's in Congress or BJP or any party. You
Right.
take a look.
Right.
Okay, in Goa it comes to real estate. Even in the panchayats, the sarpanch is also involved in real
So
estate.
what you're
the
saying is
panch
that
member.
all decisions that are being taken is pointing
If
towards
the voter
real estate.
rejects anyone from real estate and mining,
Yes.
okay, and what do you expect if I am in real estate and mining? When I come, I'm going to do social work by depriving my business of everything. I will try to promote my business now because that is my money to buy the votes in the next election. So this contradiction in the people crying that Goa is being destroyed when they elect these same rascals,
Right.
okay, who have are at the root of destroying Goa, okay. So we are culpable for this whole thing. So we have to change our voting patterns. Anyone in mining and real estate should be rejected outright.
Okay, Abhijit and then
Yeah,
Sapnesh.
yeah, I'd like to respond to that. With respect, I would not agree with what they're saying. You have to look at the root cause. And in the root cause, nobody can deny that Goa has been a feudal system. There has been a ruling class and there has been an oppressed class, which is the majority. Now, the first thing that should have happened was the land rights, the commons, and the other social and other economic rights of the poor should have been first upheld. The situation today is the defenders, the Rakhondas of Goa are the poor people, the oppressed people. But they are in a position where they don't have land rights. Even their own houses are not belonging to them. This is across Bicholi, Sattari, all our, most of our talukas, even in Salset. Even in Kurtori where I live, the majority of the population cannot speak because everybody is in fear. Fear of the feudal landlord, fear of the government. And today we have, I think, more than 60-70,000 people working for the government. At the time of liberation, the number was only 2,000. Okay. These people, every government officer, they even got circulars. They got letters that you cannot take up an issue against the government. So all of them are not only keeping out of their constitutional duty and their social responsibility, they are actually keeping another 25 people out by saying, if you say something against a law which is passed, I'm going to be transferred, so please keep quiet.
No, so what you're saying is absolutely correct, but it's not. I don't see it as a contradiction to what Sauter is saying.
Yeah.
I see it as another point.
So-
because what
so
happens is that the points that both Sauter and Radha made on the fact that the kind of people we are bringing to power are the same kind of people who are making these laws and amendments which are being detrimental.
But that
So-
cannot change. All I'm saying is that cannot change unless there is first a socio-economic change. And what I'm saying is, in a system where most of the people are oppressed and there is a ruling class, you cannot bring in a change of land use. You cannot bring in a new economic system, a land, change in the land tenure and usage, unless you first give the people their rights.
Absolutely. But the point is that cannot happen if you bring in people with vested interests.
Sujay, we also need to see after the Munkar Act came into place,
Yeah.
and at least I can say in Bardes,
Right.
okay, many people took the this thing under Munkar, okay, and whom they sold it to. They didn't use that land. Even fields, they claimed it under the Agriculture Tenancy Act and then sold it out to this thing because they are getting huge money.
Right.
It has happened even in Perne,
Right.
along Morji and all, where people who had the land, took it from the owners under the Munkar Act and got everything and sold it, put the money in the bank and thought that they would live in luxury.
Right.
Okay, spend it and now they have nothing.
Correct.
Okay, so it is not such a black and white thing. Now, okay, maybe in Sattari and where all this Mokaso thing and all, there is this oppression of one particular family or something. That could be in certain places.
Right.
But in Bardes, Tiswadi, Salset, okay, many people took the benefits, even in Ponda and all these things. And they have finally passed on the land to real estate.
Right.
And real estate people have used the Munkar Act to get tenants to fight for the land and all, and take it from the Badkas.
This happened when we were investigating that whole golf course project. The same thing happened there as well. Imagine a golf course
Tirakol.
in Tirakol. The same issue happened.
Tirakol, we were involved, but the whole thing was that there were tenants,
Right.
agricultural tenants, and there was when the first time I went there in 2008, I saw the people there with bouncers and coming and telling families, you
Correct.
have to do this. We will give you so much money, but
Yes.
you have to do it. You have
Right.
no option.
Right.
And they are tenants. So
Correct.
all he did was he said, okay, I'll sign a negative declaration. My father never cultivated,
Right, right.
which is a very sad thing a person is
Right.
supposed to do.
Correct.
But the fundamental issue is the economic system. We have a system where money is worshipped, and this does not work. This system does not work. This has to be changed.
See, even in Tirakol,
Economic system.
I was in Tirakol in 1985 and all, okay. And you had Tirakol, nobody could enter Tirakol. The Gaon Pond was so strong,
Right.
okay.
Right.
That again was penetrated, and it's actually money that has split the people in
people,
Tirakol.
correct.
Now the bouncers and all are much later because they were encouraged. In 80s, nobody dared to come in Tirakol and create any problem outsider.
I'm sure the same
You
story
know?
would be repeated in other villages also.
Yes.
So please, before we close, you've been hearing patiently. Just respond to some of the points that we've raised, especially because you've also been a part of the electoral system. You're very much there.
I'd
in the
like
last-
to comment add on to the comments
Yeah,
what has
sure.
been made by Dottor.
Yeah.
Dottor said this was started with Congress and BJP has there taken it up. But if you look at the people who had started in Congress, they are the same people who are operating in BJP now.
Yes.
This
Unfortunately.
amendment, Revenue Minister is right now Abush Monserrat. He was the architect of Regional Plan 2011. And what happened to that, how Goa erupted after the regional plan, everyone knows. Now coming to what Sauter Sir said. Now, Munkarial Act and Tenancy Act, by default, if someone is a beneficiary out of it, this is a beneficiary legislation. If someone is getting benefit out of it, he is not supposed to sell that land, or at least in Agriculture Tenancy Act, he is not supposed to change the land use of that act.
Right.
Now, this is exactly where Mamledar comes into picture with his recommendation on a conversion sanat. Now, if these things are not looked into by a collector, there is 100% chances that his decision of granting or denying permission will be always a mistake.
Right. Right.
It will be wrong mistake,
Right.
wrong decision of a collector. So that is why this recommendation, and it is not limited to these 4 departments. How Abhijit sir said, there are command areas. WRD should come into picture.
Yes.
I am having a case in my hand wherein WRD officer is telling me, yes, that land is a command area, but in regional plan it is shown as settlement.
Right.
And files are not been referred to us. So we cannot do anything. So
This
this
is
is
a practical issue.
Yes.
Yes. Now, coming back to what we were discussing earlier and introducing a fresh point here. See, we also see that, when these kind of amendments happen, you have one department coming into play. But when this happens, it also, in a sense, say, curtails the powers of another department. For instance, here, in this particular move that is happening, it reduces the TCP's role, in the sense it literally bypasses the TCP's role. It undermines the panchayat's role. It undermines the role of the forest department itself, because of late, in the last few days, me and members of our team have been speaking to retired forest officials and other forest officials, and there's a deep sense of resentment amongst still very honest officers who are currently serving, and of course those who have retired, who are also saying that, look, at the end of the day, the government consists of different bodies meant to protect and meant to adjudicate and meant to govern in different kinds of ways. And when you have a one-sided proposed amendment like this, it actually undermines other institutions. For instance, even now, you'll have every single act which has happened is undermining some local institution or the other. You look at the Major Ports Act. It completely, bypasses and takes over all local bodies, including the panchayat. Even in this particular case, as far as forests are concerned, the forests actually play a very, very important role, because whenever there is any conversion, forest needs to get into it, give an NOC based on the canopy density of that particular land, and even if it is marginally over the cap of the canopy density, you do not go ahead and give these kind of conversion okays. Now, what's happening here is that I'll start especially with the forest. People are not understanding that here large amounts of forest areas and other things also get affected. As Sautat also mentioned, during one of the points that he's raised, that you cannot replace trees with concrete, and that is exactly what's happening. It is being played across, whether you look at the Mopa airport, whether you look at the Mopa link road, or whether you look at conversions of this sort, or any building. The point here is that institutions, especially local institutions, are getting undermined at will. Blanket amendments are being made, and what is ironical and sad is that these institutions perhaps are not even speaking up and raising objections. Why should objections always be kind of put up by public spirited activists, many of them whom are here? Why can't the system itself object to things that are happening? Because at the end of the day, it is also the right of the forest department or the TCB department to protect themselves. I'll start with Abhijit this time and go this way.
It's very true that the departments have to play their role, but unfortunately there is a system today where the bureaucrat's role is being reduced from applying his mind to just serving his political masters, the elected people. And this is pathetic. This means that there is no governance. This means that we have a plutocracy, a dictatorship, because the people who are supposed to take decisions, who are supposed to apply their minds fairly, without bias, are told the decision before they even take the file.
Right.
And this is the norm across all the departments, and this is despicable. This has to be stopped immediately. This means that we are living in a situation where where there is no reason, raison, there is no logic. There is the decision of a few, and the decision of a few will always be to make more money for themselves. So that's the reason what Sauter is saying.
Coming to the, yes, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean, you cannot
but
replace trees with
I'll
concrete.
just point out
yeah.
in the regional plan, see what is behind all of this. When the regional plan was being made, the task force has stated in para 1.1.5 of its report, it is clear that there is a need to strengthen data collection at all levels. Government departments continue giving least importance to data collection and collation. Initial records, which are many a time erroneous, keep perpetuating to wrong inferences being drawn. Then the government itself in its report release 1 says the delay in making the RP was compounded by non-submission of data by departments like agriculture, PWD, forest, WRD, revenue and land survey. Nobody gave, whose responses to requests were extremely lukewarm if not cold. See, this is the situation of our departments today. I'm sorry to say, we have no governance today.
Sapresh, a quick response to this. Also, one of the points that one touched upon, if you even look at the role of the forest department also, which is extremely important. If you could just elaborate a little bit on this and also touch upon some of the key objections you yourself have raised.
See, forest department objection was the prime focus, what we also focused on. Largely because the data is not in public domain. Now, even as far as Munkarial things are concerned, it is there in Form 1 and 14. For zoning certificate, it is there on regional plan. But what is the tree canopy density, that is not in public domain as of now.
Right.
So taking the recommendation or NOC from forest department is of prime importance for making a decision whether a particular parcel of land can be converted or not.
Right.
So that department you cannot bypass. Now replacing trees with concrete, I fully agree with that. Now just take examples of animals. Our plateaus have been sold off and getting converted into concrete. The primary thing what is happening there is our grazing grounds are going away. And that is the reason, one of the reasons our cattle are always seen on the roads.
Right.
Even this wild animals, snakes and all, they are entering into our habitats now.
That's true, into homes and others, yes. Yes.
Now they won't be entering into high-rise buildings because they have created a compounded complex for themselves. They will be entering into the people who used to always stay there.
That's right, correct.
With the Mangalore tiles, आमच्या नळ्यांच्या घरांनी त्यांच्याच घरान पावतले ते. Who are the sufferers over here? We people, because they are not getting affected anyway. And the most important aspect is that Delhi, Union Territory, a place like Delhi, the land is sold in square feet, and in Goa it is sold in square meters. You can imagine the difference. Now my perspective on that is they have already destroyed the habitat. No one can survive in Delhi anymore, and they are willing to give away anything to take a piece of land from Goa. And what do we do then? Secondly, by proposing such types of amendments, politicians are not the actual beneficiaries out of it. They are actually the brokers. They are acting,
very important point actually.
They are acting for their masters, who are actually this lobby, real estate builder lobby, within the state, outside of state. They are the actual beneficiaries, and these people are getting in such amendments for their benefits. So literally, for all practical purposes, they are behaving as brokers now. And what do bureaucrats do? If they raise a voice, best example will be that red flag which was raised for formalin. What happened to that officer?
Correct. Absolutely true.
Everyone has seen that. Now this is a red flag for the bureaucrats, in fact the government servants. If someone raises a flag, see what happens to that employee or to that government officer. Now who will dare to take up such issues then? Who will dare to raise the red flags? No one will do. So we the people have to come out, because at the end of the day, we will be the sufferers.
Rather, this whole broader issue of converting Goa into concrete, and this seems to be an absolute like a dedicated project of government after government after government. The point is, can't there be any legislation to put a cap on the amount of land which can come under concretization?
See what happens to Sujoy? There's no need for more legislation. Everything is there in place. The problem is implementation. You see what happens, the system is designed to enable everyone, right from the minister to the bureaucrat to the peon, to extort from the builders. It is designed like that. Now I will tell you how we can get out of it.
Right.
You see what happens now, the law contemplates a regional plan. Now a regional plan identifies all the land in Goa. now on the regional plan committee, you have necessarily under the law, you have representations from the forest department,
Right.
you have collectors representatives, land revenue, you have that command area water irrigation, you have representation from the chief town planner heads it. So all these persons sit, and then they are supposed to take input from all departments. The forest department, the command area, whatever departments are there, and then prepare a regional plan. So a complete regional plan will show in the plan itself, these are the forests, these are the Kazan lands, these are the coconut groves, these are the orchards, this is the fields. All this will be shown on the plan as per the survey number or whatever.
Right.
This is what the law contemplates. Now once you have such a plan, there is no question of when I apply for conversion, sending that my application to anyone, because they are all supposed to sit and finish their finalize it. Once the regional plan is finalized, all I have to do as a citizen is to draw my plans, give it to the TCP department. The TCP will press a button and see the plan on their map, whether this is settlement or non-settlement. If it is non-settlement, they will simply say this land is non-settlement, plan rejected, matter ends. No question of going anywhere.
No further discussion.
No further discussion. If the land is settlement, all they have to do is to approve the plans if they are consonant with other laws and send it to the collector. The only job of the collector ought to be quantify how much is the amount payable, because he has no authority to decide. That only the town planner has decided on the basis of plans which have been approved by all departments.
So he needs to do his revenue job.
Yes, he says this much you pay 5 lakhs and give.
Right.
This can be done in 7 days. You don't need 20 days.
Right.
If you have a proper plan.
Right.
So I would, as a citizen, demand that you keep everything in abeyance, or everything. For 2 years, you call all departments, put your forest, everything on one plan.
Right.
Then where's the question of going to forest department?
Correct.
Today you go to the forest department, I will tell you what happens now.
Right.
You put a plan, the collector sends it to the forest department. Then the applicant goes to the forest department. The man there, he says, I cannot come today, come in 3 days for inspection. He has to take him to the site. He is 2-3 times he is sent back. 4th times he pays him 5,000, 10,000, depending on the size of his. He comes to the site, he gives a report. Then after the report, the big boss calls him. He demands 50,000. This is reality. And if I am not speaking the truth, get your HCN to submit some plan and see what happens. This is designed for fraud. This is designed to enable the officers to make money and everyone up the line to make money. So that is why my suggestion very clearly is, let us have a all comprehensive plan, which includes everything. If some area is forest, show it there.
So there cannot be piecemeal amendments.
No, nothing. You make
like
a
in this
plan,
manner, right.
and wherever it is there, the town planning will, by press of button, give you now. Why do you need all this, man? You will be cutting red tape. The number of staff required would be less. But let the come. I think we should demand that the people should say, you make a plan where everything is shown. No need to refer plans to anyone.
But your suggestion is a simple suggestion. I'm sure the
No,
GBA
that
would
is
have
what
said
the
the
law
same thing.
requires.
Right.
See, I am only asking for implementation.
Right.
The law requires that ODP and the regional plan should be prepared in consultation with input from all departments.
But I'm sure the same nature of narrative of Radha's would have been put forward during the GB agitation with the regional plan also.
See, the whole
Why
thing
was it
is,
not followed that?
we elect governments,
Right.
and we have got government officials based on their qualifications. Okay, we are lay people. Okay, so they are actually paid by us,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
to look after the public interest.
Correct. Correct.
Today it has become the thing that public has to pay them and public only has to defend the interest. Okay, these people are sitting there and working against the very public.
What
whom they are supposed to serve.
One point that Radha made is that you keep everything in abeyance. You have a proper regional plan now.
Exactly.
You notify it, and then you
See,
then you do everything under
With
that umbrella.
satellites
Yes,
today,
yes.
every dot on this planet can be noted,
Yes.
and say you can
Correct.
know exactly, and you can know the repercussions of removing this piece of
Correct.
and changing its use. Even today,
Right.
artificial intelligence is such, it
Right.
will tell you what will happen 10 years down the lane.
Of course, correct.
Line, if you convert this area, what will be the consequences? So all these things are there, technology is there. Okay, but these people are not applying it, so giving all sorts of excuses by pushing it from here to there and there. Okay, and the main thing is, are the people going to keep track every few months, one amendment now, you know? Either you have, like you had this job fair, no? Like that you have one amendment fair, all the departments sit there, let all the people come and check for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So many amendments we want to push.
Right.
Okay. What is this? Every two days, one amendment comes, you know, and they are coming during when now? Ganesh Chaturthi festival, Diwali festival, Christmas. So people don't know which side to attack. Okay. Another thing with this 20 days, on Friday evening, now if you say, it says on the day the collector, the date of the collector sends this thing. Okay. He will type the letter, put Friday, he will outward it at 5 o'clock. It will reach to the concerned department on Monday or Tuesday. So 4 days gone.
Right.
Okay. Then that person should be sitting there. That fellow goes another 3 days leave. Okay. He comes back, all this sort of thing. Then he will take 3 days to send it back here. You know, he will release it on a Friday. So all these things, now even this notification that comes, see the government gazette is comes out on Friday.
Right.
Okay. But people get it in hand only on Monday. You see, so 3 days already lapsed, and you say 15 days. So it comes down, actually, you go to see, just 7 or 8 days people have to file their objections. They say 15 days because the rest are gone in holidays and all these things. And by the time people go to and get that government gazette, okay.
So what you are essentially saying is that even the time given to raise these objections is actually far
no,
less.
these amendments should not come so frequently.
Right.
If you want, like how you have your ODPs made for 5 years or your regional plan is made for 10 years.
Correct.
You have a time, Baba, okay, we need so many amendments. These are the justifications why we need the amendments. There could be certain improvements required in the law in the interest of the public, fine, but it cannot continue every 2 months. And another dangerous thing is, it happened during Manohar Parrikar's time in Porvorim. Okay, this also is happening, okay, in the sense that in 2002, you know, Porvorim is put under PDA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Certain projects are passed, and naturally when Dr. Willy was there, only he started a hangama, and in 2 months after those projects are passed, you revert it back to this thing. Okay, you remove the PDA, but those projects go on. So the same way is done with the laws. Today they amend a law, and then they find Radha has come and applied, we have to punish Radha now. So they amend the law again back and reverse it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So this thing is going on without any, responsibility.
Without any check.
No accountability.
At ground level, how PWD used to function. They used to construct the road, and after 10 days they used to open it, put the pipelines and leave it that way. So that is exactly what is happening with amendments now.
Right. I wanted to infuse, with your permission, another thought into this whole discussion. No, it's not strictly connected to conversions, but the issue is, the larger thought is that what is happening is that people in Goa, especially simple people or poor people or disadvantaged people, they no longer have absolute control over their original lands and habitats. Whether you look at land acquisition for Mopa or any of the highways, you look at the farmers in Mershes, you look at you look at different projects all over. You can even look at the Western Bypass. You look at any other subject here, but the question of land loss, involuntary land loss, and by land loss I mean that this also leads to loss of livelihoods. It's not just land. Because if you see the Mopa Link Road, when people lose their cashew trees, and the cashew trees are the only source of income for a majority of the people there, they benefit from the produce of the cashew. They use that money to run their homes and send children to schools. So the issue is that there has to be some thought on this power of the state in the under the garb or under the reasoning of development and growth, to take over any land belonging to anybody in this kind of a manner. Obviously, I mean, everything is legal because there are laws to do it. But I'm just saying this, the principle of this, it means that my land which I have cultivated over generations, or if I'm living off it, or my home, my dwelling, nothing is ultimately safe. And that is an issue that we must kind of dwell with. Whether you look at any kind of acquisition or any kind of conversion, whatever you call it, conversion, I understand it is more voluntary. But acquisition is not completely voluntary. So it's few thoughts. I'll start with you.
The rationalization should take place. See, how much of housing they are going to have? Because now the panchayats also need to provide other infrastructure to the residents.
Right.
Okay. Today in many villages there is no playground. Okay. Now you may say some private land selling to the builder. This person doesn't want it. He sells it to the builder. You acquire it under market price. If that person doesn't want,
correct.
and make a playground. Okay. Another thing is, you keep on adding an urban development in a
Rural area.
design in a rural area.
Yes.
I want to start a piggery. Okay. Then the people in the building are saying we are getting the smell. You know, you start a poultry. People are saying that. So then you say no, within 500 meters, 600 meters. Now Goa is just 3,702 square kilometers. We are not a Madhya Pradesh or a Uttar Pradesh or a Maharashtra.
Correct. Yeah.
Understood. No, we've got very little land, and most of the land is like underwater, whatever is in mangroves.
Yes, yes.
So what we can use is very little. So if you start saying no, poultry can only exist, 1,000 meters away from a some house or something, then the whole livelihood of those people is finished. No?
Correct.
And that is how the thing. So all these things have to be kept in mind when allowing conversions for housing.
Correct.
Okay. How much of
Or
housing
any
is
other
enough?
project for that matter.
Yeah.
By just only housing.
People-
Housing, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you require now MRF. Now panchayats are getting penalized. They don't have place to set up these systems. Okay. Now, whereas buildings are coming up. And buildings are coming up even before the infrastructure is in place. There is no water for the existing
No
residents.
water, no sewage.
No proper electricity,
Right.
power voltage, but huge buildings are coming up. 800 flats in a small ward where the water population itself is 700, and 800 flats are coming up. So what do you expect to happen in a panchayat area? So there is totally irrationality, nothing, and only this whole hype of Swayam-Purna, Atmanirbharta, nothing. They are displacing the people, and people are become helpless. And this whole process itself, is ultra-virus.
Correct.
Okay. These land revenue code, should incorporate the panchayats now when it comes to land.
Absolutely.
It should incorporate the municipalities. So the panchayats and municipalities should be consulted. All these amendments. Now, our Gram Sabhas were held in the month of October. They are coming out with this amendment on November 3rd. Why they didn't come out in October with this amendment if you want to come? It involves people's land, right?
Right.
In the
Absolutely.
villages.
Correct.
So you see the timing also these
At
people
least
are
keep
playing.
it open till the next Gram
Next
Sabha
Gram
comes
Sabha,
in
correct.
December.
Rather, the same issue basically. Now the thing is, this whole process of taking over of land or a common Goan unable to kind of be confident that this land was going to be mine forever and ever, and fall prey to so-called development project. I mean, in the sense that this fear that is in the minds, because what happens is you don't even get compensation early, you don't even get alternate land early, then it goes into litigation because titles are controversial. So how do we get around this?
See what has happened now after that Singrur issue.
Yes.
The law has been amended. Now, from what I can see in the last many years, no land has been acquired in Goa, and no land is except now IIT for public purpose. Now, even for roads, they are not acquiring land because now the law is if you acquire land, you have to pay 3 times
Right.
the value plus whatever solicium and all, which would mean land in Goa now. See, if you take the government notification also, land prices are quite high. 3 times that area and with all other things would come to around 15,000 rupees per square meter. So government is not acquiring any more land now for any public purpose or even for private parties in Goa. Besides, you can't acquire, you have to go and buy some certain percentage of the land and then ask the government to acquire the remaining. So somehow this has been stalled. But the problem is, you see, what happens is land acquisition is not an issue, but at some point of time, parties, private industries that came, if they required 100, they asked for 10,000.
Right.
Zuaris, they acquired 30 lakh square meters. The plant was there on 1 lakh square meter. Now, the rest of they acquired at 50 paise per square meter. Today, that land is being plotted and sold at 15, 20, 30,000 rupees per square meter.
Correct. Yes.
Now, here is where government has to intervene. If the land was acquired for a
Particular purpose.
fertilizer plant, and if you don't need it, return it back. We can use that land for husband,
Correct.
for
Exactly.
the people of Goa.
Correct.
That is where government must step in and insist that Zuaris cannot use that land for other purpose.
Correct. So please, do you also feel that the large number of Goans, either through conversion or acquisition in the past, do you think that the time has come for us to look into this serious danger of people actually losing lands which are already their livelihoods?
Exactly. See, taking example of MOPA, government comes up with a slogan that Atmanirbhar, and what they say, Swayam-Purna. They were basically farmers, so they were by default Atmanirbhar. Now you take away their land, their occupation, and tell them we will be providing you with jobs. Now, job is in no manner Atmanirbhar. The concept itself is fundamentally flawed. They are providing us with a job and then they are telling us that now you are Atmanirbhar. That is not the way Atmanirbhar is actually should be happening. Atmanirbhar is what? I am in control entirely of my occupation and my time.
And my destiny.
And my destiny.
Right.
That is what is Atmanirbhar is. They themselves don't know what Atmanirbhar is. They are now CM, Vishwajit Rane, Rohan Khaute, these all people, even Babush Monsera, these all people are into real estate business. For them, for us, for activists or people like us, land is very holy for us. For them, it is a business entity. They look at the land with a perspective of earning from it by selling it off. By selling it off, that is of prime importance. So this Atmanirbhar or Sampurna concept, what government is trying to project themselves that they are providing is flawed. Secondly, actually if you see and look around in Goa, who exactly is in control right now? Not even the state government is in control, because whatever central government tells them, they quietly follow it. So basically there is no state government right now in Goa. There are only clerks and head clerks. That is the CM, basically what I say in other meetings and all. CM is chief manager of Goa. He is only managing things on behalf of head office of theirs. BJP head office is directing him and he is executing in state.
I wish we had a government or a BJP representative, and I must put on record that we really tried, for reasons best known, or maybe they were too busy, they did not participate in this. But a government response on this would have been very welcome, because the lot of the points raised here need a good response, to at least a justification or ostensible justification.
But they are always having, all the time they are on TV, all of them. So they have enough of this thing to respond.
But fundamentally, I think Swapnesh has said it rightly. To elaborate, there is an ongoing war between two economic systems. One which looks at oneness with the land, and maybe even looks at land as his mother, and and that is how all Goans used to be.
Right.
And the other economic system has commodified land, commodified water, commodified everything, and looks at it as money.
Money, yes.
So these two economic systems are at a war which you cannot see. The war is going on. The war is going on in the courts, on the land, everywhere. And this is the fundamental thing. And sad to say that the government is siding with the destructive forces, with
the commodity
forces,
lobby,
with the commodity lobby. And I will make this allegation that the government is knowingly destroying Goa. As part of Rainbow Warriors, we have sent in maybe 100, 200 letters talking about all of this. The recent ones on climate crisis, not a single one is replied to. So they know everything. Yet, they are taking steps which are completely suicidal for Goa. These are suicidal steps. I will allege that these people, the people in rule, in power, know that they are going to destroy Goa. And I think all they are interested in is making some little money. Maybe they are trying to show something to others, social status, I don't know. But I say that they don't even love their own children. I will say this, and I can challenge them to come for a discussion. But I can assure you none of them will appear. They will run into the holes like rats, but they will not appear.
Radha,
See what happens, Sujoy.
Yes.
All governments are concerned with coming back to power. They are not concerned with destruction or saving the land or saying. No one is concerned. Everything is geared to see how to come back to power. And in Goa, the BJP knows fully well that irrespective of what they do, they will be voted back to power, and there's one way to vote them back to power. When elections come, they'll be giving the voter Krishna, and no one will care what Radha has to say. It will be Krishna only also. They are going to vote for Krishna.
No, even the ES sides, now that some MLAs are opposing this eco-sensitive zones, claiming that the people are affected. Is it the people who are affected, or are these people scared that their real estate interests are going to be affected? This is the problem. So they begin to talk on behalf of the people. Well, ultimately, the people are the losers. right from last 4 decades, they have been telling us, no, we require industrial estates. They gave up all the plateaus. Okay, now see the misery of the people of Kortali, Agasai, all this thing that you will prosper.
This
you
itself
will
is another
prosper.
discussion.
Where is the prosperity?
Correct,
and then why
absolutely.
people are taking Portuguese passport and going abroad? If your prosperity is so much, they should have been coming here.
No, I completely agree, Sota. And then your last point is a discussion of its own. We need to spend another 1 hour on this whole issue of how plateaus are getting affected and how streams are getting dried up. We can go on and on, but suffice to say, if I can just sum up this very important though somber discussion, is that I'll just take one line from what Abhijit said, that do we love our children? I mean, the allegation was that people in power do not, and that's a very emotive outburst of sorts. But that should keep us thinking, in the sense that at the end of the day, every action that we take now, and by we mean everybody, the whole polity. It includes governance, it includes voters, it includes everybody who's a stakeholder in our land. Is that if we take decisions which are going to make some people, prosperous and on a part of so-called development, and the actual sons and daughters of the soil, poorer, and I'm not even saying this in terms of money, in terms of your lifestyle, in the terms of the vibe that you have, in the terms of your culture, your traditions, and your way of life, if that gets completely eroded, and which is happening, because every time, and land is very intrinsically connected to this, because when you have a land use change, there is a change in the lifestyle, the milieu, the vibe. So it's a big cultural change also. It's not just a economic change. It's a huge cultural and way of life change. And when that happens, then the charm of Goa as it once was, that gets completely replaced. And when that happens, then your futures, your lifestyles, your livelihoods, everything is getting affected and getting eroded. And ultimately, this kind of a transformation is detrimental to the future of Goa, the future of our children. And this is something that we must really get into, because short-term economic gains will ultimately be the absolute bane of our land and our society, as it were. On this note, I thank each of our panelists for all their inputs. I really wish there was a response from the government representative, and we are always welcome if there needs to be a response to this. If there's a viewpoint on this, we'll be very happy to air it, show it, write it. But I think we must keep this discussion going, and to start with, this particular amendment that has been proposed, it should be stopped in its tracks right away. The objections of all the people who've given objections should be treated with respect and sagacity, and such a reckless kind of an amendment should be immediately stopped, so that at least something of Goa can be saved. I end with this. Thank you very much.